Hello. Today we're discussing Parsha Mishpatim. Suddenly, this Parsha takes us from the drama of the Israelites' enslavement with the hope of freedom, through the 10 plagues, with the Pharaoh's refusal to let the Jews go, with their escape into the desert and crossing the Red Sea, the journey to Mount Sinai, and then finally great event of the covenant and receiving the Torah. And suddenly in this parsha it switches to list of laws, covering an incredible list of topics, from responsibility for damages to protecting property, to laws of justice, to Shabbat, to the festivals. It covers family laws, financial regulations, and much, much more. Covers every aspect of human relations between people and relationship between people and God as well. Why here? Why not continue with this story leading up to the next great drama, which is the sin of golden calf? And the answer is very interesting. By the way, everything I'm going to say now in the next few minutes, I picked up from the articles of Rebbe Jonathan Sachs. And this is what he is saying. God is everywhere and is in every detail of life. First, Torah gave us the story, the overall concept, visions. Now it goes into the details. Without the vision, the details are merely, they're just boring a little bit, I must admit. Tiresome. There is a well-known story, for instance, of 3 men. And all 3 of them employed cutting blocks of stone. And when they were asked, what are they doing? One said, cutting stone. The second said, earning a living. And the third one said, building a palace. Those who have the larger picture, the more pride they have more pride in their labor, in their work. And they working harder and actually better. Great leaders communicate their vision, but they are also very meticulous and painstakingly looking for the details. Edison famously said, genius is in 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. It is the attention to the details that separates the great artists, poets, composers, filmmakers, politicians, and head of corporations from the average. The late Steve Jobs, for instance, when they were designing the Apple stores, said that the staircases inside the stores must be made from glass. And the answer was there is no such glass so tough and so strong that it can carry the weight of people marching the steps up and down all day long. Well, when he was told that, he said, okay, let's invent the glass, which is strong enough. And they did. He was actually the holder of the patent. And now if you go to any Apple store, you will see glass staircases. The genius of Torah was to apply the principle of the society as a whole to everyday life. The Israelites had to come through a whole set of events which will transform them from slavery, from slave mentality to freedom, to being a free person. Moses knew that there is what he is taking Jewish people, the journey he is taking the Jewish people for, is nothing like it's like nothing which happened before. He also knew that God has got his own project plan. So nothing is accidental or incidental in the story of Jewish people and the laws and everything related to Torah. The Israelites had experienced slavery to make them cherish freedom. And they had suffered so that they would know that what it feels like to be a slave on their own side of the power. At Sinai, at Mount Sinai, God through Moses had given them a mission statement, because he told them, "You will become my kingdom of priests and a holy nation," under sovereignty of God alone. Hashem wanted them and still wants us to create a society built on principles of justice, human dignity, and respect to life. But not even the broad principles of the Ten Commandments are sufficient to sustain a society in the long run. You can't rely only on the big statements and the big picture. You must translate the historical experience into the detailed legislation, into a set of laws, rules, regulations, so that the Israelites would live what they had learned in their life, so that they will take it into their daily life. The experience of slavery, the level of understanding of each other and the people and their slaves which they had. The whole Torah is like woven into the social life of everyday life. And in this parsha, in Mishpatim, the whole big vision becomes the details. And the story, the narrative becomes law. So, for example, if you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying you anything. And in many cases, Torah insists that you will give him actually very lavish presents as well. At the stroke of the law, slavery is transformed from a condition of birth, because some people are born being slaves, to a temporary situation. So from who you are, it simply becomes an issue, a time frame related temporary issue of what you do. Slavery is the bitter experience of Israelites in Egypt, and it could not be abolished overnight. And as a matter of fact, even in the United States, slavery was abolished in 1860s. And even then, it was through a very serious civil war between North and South. Even today, on our planet, there is still slavery in many places. But the opening law, which we just discussed in this parsha, is the start of the long journey to bring people to understanding of equality of life, of importance of it. For instance, the next set of laws where they explain that anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result of that beating. The slave, as far as Torah is concerned, as far as the Torah teaching us, the slave is not a mere property, or he or she has the right to life, and if they are killed, the owner must be punished and must face the consequences. Similarly, the law of Shabbat, for instance, states 6 days of your work, but on 6 days you will work. But on the 7th day, do not work, so that your ox and your donkey may rest, and so that the slave born in your household and the foreigner living among you may be refreshed. 1 day in 7 days where they were to breathe the air of freedom. All 3 laws we just mentioned prepare the way for abolition of slavery. even though it would take more than 3,000 years to do it. But that's the beginning. In that parsha is the beginning of the process. There are two laws that have to do with the Israelites' experience of being oppressed as a minority. For instance, do not mistreat or oppress a stranger. For you were strangers in Egypt. Do not oppress stranger. Your slaves know how it feels to be foreigners, because you were foreigners in Egypt. This is what Torah says in this parsha. And then there are laws which invoke aspects of people experience in Egypt, such as do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. If you do, and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. You know what that means? It means that if you, in any shape or form, abuse or enslave or give a hard time or physically abuse a widow or an orphan or somebody who is fatherless, the consequences will be very painful. And believe me, I'm sure everyone can find experiences in their life where when somebody who was abusing in any shape or form a widow or an orphan, later on in his or her life suffered terribly. Torah means law, but it also means teaching, instruction, guidance, or more generally, direction. It also is a generic name for 5 books, from Genesis to Deuteronomy. And all 5 comprise the narrative and the law. Most books of law do not contain narratives, and most books of narrative, like stories, do not contain law. But the Torah is a unique combination of laws, rules, and narrative, history and law, the experiences of nation, and the way that nation has to live in its collective way and collective way of life, as well as each individual. The nation as a whole should never forget the lessons it learned along the way, and brings together the vision and the details in a way that has never been surpassed. It's an instruction manual for the leaders. That is how we must lead if we want people to come with us giving their best. There must be a vision to inspire people, telling them why we should do what we ask to do. There must be a narrative. This is what happened, and this is who we are, and why is it the vision is so important to us. I can tell you one story. I actually listened to that story during one of my management courses which I went to. And it was a course about motivation of employees. Just imagine a soldier in the field during the war who is told by one sergeant, dig a trench here, 2 meters long, 1 meter wide, 2 meters deep, or 1.5 meters deep. It's a hot day, he's given a shovel, and he digs, and he's not doing a very good job because he doesn't know why he digs that trench, why this size, why is he doing this? Then the other sergeant comes, let's say another scenario, and the soldier is told, dig that trench here, it's important that it looks in the correct direction because we will use it to defend ourselves, and gives him the same dimensions. So now he understands that this trench is will do something important for the whole team of soldiers there. And then the last sergeant comes, who is the best motivator and the best leader, and he says, look mate, I know it's a hot day, I know it's a tough job, But we desperately need you to dig that trench here, 2 meters long, 1 meter wide and 1.5 meters deep, facing this way, because our intelligence tells us that we will have the enemy attacking us in this direction. And this will be the front point where the best of the best will be the front line defending us right here at this point. And their life depends on you, whether you will do the job properly, the best possible way, and quickly enough. I think the last one, the last scenario is the best, because the soldier was given the vision, the rules, and the main point, he was given the reason why. There must be a law, the code, the attention to detail that allow us to translate vision into reality and turn the pain of the past into the blessings of the future. The extraordinary combination to be found almost in no other law code is what gives Torah the enduring power. It is a model for all who seek to lead people to greatness through having a vision and at the same time paying attention to every detail. It's exactly the same as every letter in our mezuzah on the door must be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, it's not good. It's the same way as every letter of the Torah that we read in the synagogue must be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, the whole Torah, the whole scroll is no good. And I would like to finish on this by saying to you that, yes, the Torah narrative, the story is great, the vision is great. We're trying to achieve the best, and we're trying to be the kingdom of priests and the holy nation. But without the knowledge of the rules of how we should behave to each other, how we should behave towards other people, what and how is necessary in order to achieve the best possible way of life, that's what this parsha is all about. Thank you very much. I will see you next time.